All right, this is going to be a fun one. This is a 10.09 acre tract with almost 200 feet of direct frontage on the Niagara River. It's got 194 feet of direct frontage, fully surveyed with the corners and the lines marked, so you're in great shape there. Here the property is toward the middle of the video. It's outlined in red. The east side, we've got a little over 500 feet of direct frontage on Marigold Drive, and then it heads to the west where it has 194 feet of direct frontage on the Niagara River. Directly across the river, this shaded area, that's the Barclay Conservation Area. So that's over 400 acres of conservation area, basically public land that's open for the public to use and enjoy. So you've got trails and recreation available for hunting as well as just a ton of river frontage and a lot of privacy, because that means you're not going to have neighbors across the river. So that whole stretch across the river, one of the, I don't know if it's a concern, but one thing that people tell me about when they buy riverfront property is they're never sure if there's going to be a campsite or a campground, or someone's going to move, you know, build a house directly across the river, which would, potentially destroy their view or their peace and quiet a little bit. In this situation, it's really unique because you've got that conservation area up and down river, so extremely private. The Barclay Conservation Area, if you look at the south side here, that's a really, really good river access point. It's free, of course, plenty of parking, nice gravel bar, and I believe a concrete boat launch as well. So if you want to do like a little mini float, you can put in your canoe or kayak or raft right there and float right down to your actual property to take your kayak out of the water. This particular section of the Niagara River is within the 12-mile section of white ribbon trout fishing. It's downriver from Bennett Springs State Park, where they have a trout hatchery and they raise and release rainbow trout and brown trout into the river. And this is within that 12-mile section. So you've got direct frontage on the white ribbon trout fishing. So extremely unique. Other thing I'll mention while we're looking here, in relation to the trout fishing, the Barclay Conservation Area is so named because of the Barclay Spring, which is kind of toward the middle here. And that's a large cold water spring that comes out of the ground and flows into the Niagara River about here. I've been told by trout people who know way more than I do about trout fishing for sure, that the trout congregate in this particular area because they love the cold water of that Barclay Spring. So, I mean, the fishing in general is great, bass fishing, all that good stuff. But not only is it within the 12-mile white ribbon trout fishing area, it happens to be within a very good stretch of that trout fishing area. We've seen a number of people fishing for trout right in here. So the spring emptying out into the river right about there. Property's just a few hundred feet upriver from that. So pretty special deal. Let's zoom in a little. Well, we won't zoom in quite yet. Okay. So Marigold Drive on the east. The property, like we said, does have about 500 feet of frontage on Marigold. There's currently no approach off of Marigold onto the property, but you do have a couple different options for access. One of them is to take this little roadway right here, and you actually enter on the north side of, this is track 17 by the, I'm sorry, this is track 18. So you enter on the north side of track 19. This shows the yellow line. This shows the road going way down here. It is surveyed out that way, but in actuality, the road starts right about here on the northeast corner of track 19 and crosses over the east side of 18, 17, 16, etc. And that's specifically to give those property owners access to the east side of their property without having to mess with putting in an approach and a driveway off of Marigold. Because this does rise up a little bit off of Marigold, you can certainly put in your own approach, but it's going to take some dirt work to do that. If you don't want to mess with that, you've got access via this road that runs over the east side. So one thing to keep in mind, if you plan to build more toward the east side, you do have that access road for that. You'll find really good timber on the east side. Like I said, it slopes up a little bit going off the road, then it levels out. We'll switch to topo map in a second to see that. Slopes down as you go down the hill to the river. So that's one access point. The other access point is you just continue north on Marigold for about a quarter mile. You'll take a left, go through the gate, and follow this easement road down to the big open meadow. Hang a left, and then you just go about 100 feet and you'll hang another left onto the secondary easement road, and that goes across the west side of the property and onto actually track 19. So that gives you vehicle access to the west side, and there's a campsite or building site here on the river with the driveway coming off the road. So pretty convenient in that, I mean, you're welcome to put in your own approach here and do a trail all the way down to the river if you choose. You can do that as soon as you buy it, or you can do it in the future. In the meantime, you do have access via these 2 road easements, so that's pretty nice. Okay, I think, where do we go from here? Still trying to keep this quick, but I do want to show as much as I can. So this is a topo map. If you're good at reading a topo map, this makes perfect sense. If it's new to you, this makes no sense at all. But basically, the lines on the topo map indicate elevation changes. So roughly the space between each line is an elevation change of about 20 feet. The dark lines are just indicating 100-foot intervals. So it's generally measured in feet above sea level. This particular dark line, if you see here, is 1,000 feet above sea level. So the east side of the property is the highest. Like we said, it rises up slightly off of Marigold, but then you have this large flat area right here. And you can see that really well on the topo map, a big, big flat area. It starts sloping down then as you go west. You could call it steep, but everyone has a different idea of what's steep and what's not. I mean, it's certainly walkable. You could put in a trail if you wanted to. You'd have some other building sites and whatnot. Then as you get toward the west side, it actually starts to flatten out again as you get toward the river. And if I'm not mistaken, when you actually get to the water itself, it does drop down a little bit. So you've got a really pretty overlook of the river itself. So that's the topography. That's what's going on with that. Let's switch back to Google Map. Okay, so here's the Google Map. I like this Google Map because it shows the property pretty well, I think. All these tracks out here were logged within the last couple of years, and this tells the tale pretty well. This east side, if you look at the timber, it's got big, thick timber. That's accurate. This west side had a little, this middle side had a little bit of logging, and then this west side, you actually have a couple open areas. And you can check out the drone video as well to get a good look at that. But I mean, this east part where it's level, you've actually got some good timber, very few signs of logging there. When you look toward the middle, that's probably, they probably did an average logging job there. And then here on the westernmost side, if you look at these lighter colored areas, those are somewhat open. So I guess the majority of the logging was probably the middle part and the west side. And then the east side, like we said, showed very few signs of being logged, and actually quite a bit of mature timber. So you've got a lot of different options. Let's say you wanted to build here in the flat part on the east side. If you were to open up and take down some of the smaller trees, you could potentially have a beautiful view of the river and the river valley. Otherwise, if you wanted to go more here toward the west side, obviously then you'd have better access and you'd be looking right at the water. The other thing I'll show you, and we're using the MapRight program, which is really handy. When you go to view the property, if you get the MapRight app, which is free, we can email you the link for this particular map. You have to open the email on whatever device has the app, click on the link within the email, and it will ask you, do you want to open this within the app? To which you'll say yes, and then not only will this map pop up on your screen, there'll be a little colored dot to indicate where you are because it works off of the GPS on your phone. So when you're driving out here, it's nice because you won't get turned around. You'll have a little dot on the road showing you which way to go. And then when you get to the property itself, it's really handy because you can literally walk the boundaries with phone in hand and tell right where you are because it'll have this red outline and there'll be that colored dot. So the MapRight app is great. We're using and it's free. They would love you to pay a subscription, I'm sure, for the full version, but you really don't need to. You can just get the free app and we can send you the link. I'm on a desktop computer using the full paid version, and with that we can do some different stuff. So what we're going to do is, first we're going to turn off the layer for public lands. We had that on to show you where the conservation center is. And then we're going to turn on the layer for the FEMA floodplain. And I think this is one of the coolest things about this property, because generally when you're talking about a piece of acreage on a major river like this, you're talking about a bunch of flood zone. There, look at that. This particular property, it's just the westernmost part, according to this map layer, is within the floodplain. Now, there's a reason for that. As we zoom out a little bit, look at that Barclay Conservation Area. That's a large open meadow of bottomland. So what that is, that's according to their model here, when the water level rises, it's got to fill this entire river bottom before it really gets up into your property. So that's why one of the many reasons this tract is really pretty special, because of that Barclay Conservation Area being across, acting kind of as a buffer when the water goes up. It's keeping your property, the vast majority of it, out of the floodplain. So if you look at that, it really is just this western part that this map is showing anyways within that FEMA floodplain. So that is really cool. Turn that off. We'll go back to the public land layer. So anyway, I mean, that's a pretty quick overview. Some other stuff in the area. Because this is a very, very popular section of river, you do have a few resorts downriver, which can be kind of cool. You've got One-Eyed Willie's over here. Past that is Maggard. On down past that is Ho-Hum Canoe and Campground. So basically, on weekends in the summertime, you'll have quite a few people coming through on canoes and kayaks because they're coming down here to stay at one of these places. Midweek, not so much, and then in the off season, it's actually really quiet there. But with you having the conservation area directly across, you know, you're not going to have the some of these lots. I mean, every property is perfect for someone, and some of these tracts would be more suited to people that want to have a little activity across the river, because there is going to be some activity across the river, especially on the weekends on these properties. But on this particular tract and these other tracts at the conservation area, this is conservation land, so you're not going to have the campfires and the partiers and that kind of stuff across from you. So nice and peaceful, nice and private. Check out InstantAcres.com to see if this property is still available. You can certainly give us a call in the office, or you can email us at sales@instantacres.com. There we go. I'm trying to think if there's anything. The only other thing I didn't mention is this. If you're wondering what this dashed line was, that's the existing power line. Power easements are in place. They run with the road easements, so that the utility easements are in place, so you can get power if you need it. If you don't want power, that's fine as well. There's probably power. Actually, I know there's power up here across the road somewhere as well. So you do have some options for that. But yeah, InstantAcres.com. We would love to talk to you. We seldom have properties on an actual named river, especially with good access to the property and to the river itself. So if you've been waiting for one, you might not want to drag your feet too much on this. So just let us know if you have any questions. Go to InstantAcres.com to see if it's available, and we look forward to doing business with you.